America's top ghost hunters relive their most extreme assignments.
Something was hunting me this whole time.
Hardened veterans of the paranormal, these are the cases that truly tested them.
I don't think I was ready for this.
In Michigan, a deserted police precinct throws up some nasty surprises.
I've been to a lot of paranormal investigations. I've been to different states, prisons, asylums, hospitals, you name it. I've never experienced rocks being thrown at me.
In Indiana, an abandoned hospital may not be as empty as it appears.
It sounded like a slow, heavy scratch, one that kind of makes your gut cringe.
Come on. And in New York State, a night at a museum is no kid's movie.
This spirit really is just out to be harmful and vengeful for no reason at all. It wasn't sitting well with any of us.
The 6th Precinct, built in 1931 as a central hub for the Detroit Police Department's crime-fighting unit. The building saw sniper fire, riots, and suicides. In 2005, the precinct falls victim to city budget cuts. The building sits empty for 8 years until it's purchased by local entrepreneur Ed Steele. But the planned renovations are disturbed by a series of bizarre events. Inanimate objects disappear and reappear at random. Lights turn on and off, and an eerie whistling echoes through the deserted corridors.
Who's there?
Construction grinds to a halt. And desperate to find answers, Ed reaches out to paranormal investigators.
Ed gave us a call and needed help. He was having trouble with what they believe paranormal activity while he was doing the restoration at the precinct.
Todd Bonner is the co-founder of Detroit Paranormal Expeditions. His motivation is clear.
My ultimate goal as a paranormal investigator is to really just find answers for the unknown. You know, there's so many questions and the field is so vast. It's a passion. I love doing it, and it changes with every investigation.
And his preparations for a ghost hunt are unique.
The way I prepare for an investigation, I usually listen to Van Halen, Diver Down album. I'll have Fruit Loops for breakfast in the morning, and I try to clear my mind to figure out what we're gonna walk into.
An investigation in a former police precinct holds a particular significance for Todd.
For me personally, my dad was a police officer, so I actually wanted to do this investigation even more. I was always around police stations when I was growing up. I felt comfort there because that's where my dad did his work.
Todd's plan is to spend the night at the precinct together with team members Jeff Atkins, Lauren Serino, and Brandy Miller.
Hey, is anybody here?
Team member Jeff is immediately disturbed by the feel of the precinct.
The atmosphere of the 6th Precinct, when we walked in for the first time, you could definitely feel the energy in the place. Almost makes you feel kind of like you're on a boat. The way that the energy affects you, kind of affects your balance even.
The investigators begin setting up their equipment in the hope of recording some spirit activity. But they're interrupted by something unexplained.
Did you hear that?
So when we were investigating the first floor, I heard whistling coming down out of that long hallway that leads back to the jail cells.
We started asking questions, is anyone back there? We started to walk towards the back.
The precinct seems deserted.
Who's out there?
Until the investigators replay their audio recording.
It was back here.
And we got an EVP saying, they're back here. No one else back there, but a clear voice saying they're back here.
Who's here with us?
It was an EVP that was so loud and clear that the first time we actually missed it because it sounded so much like a person.
It was back here.
Impressed by the early signs of activity, Todd leads the team deeper into the building.
I sense something.
The energy in this place just seemed to be increasing. It seemed to be getting stronger, more apparent.
You can feel the heaviness. It was a dark feeling.
I feel a presence here.
Brandy got her hair touched and her leg touched. We as male investigators felt like we were wanted in that area because it was a male cell block. Obviously, like the girls being there. It could have been the first time any women have been back there in, years.
Rattled, the investigators decide to move to another part of the building.
Brandy had said that, you guys should probably want to move because you're not wanted in this area. So we said we're going to go to the basement area.
But they quickly discover that there's to be no respite in the basement.
We're not alone.
When you go down the basement, it's very dark. It seems like a dark presence in the basement.
No. Go straight ahead.
Hello? Is anybody out there?
We started an EVP session.
You know what? You guys heard a voice down there before.
We got a really loud, clear EVP saying Dietrich's.
Was he warning us not to go down there? Was he just telling us his name to let us know he was there?
Despite their anxiety, the sheer volume of evidence they're collecting means they're not ready to call it a night. The team presses on through the basement, but then things take an aggressive twist.
Brandy and I actually had a personal experience. We felt something rush at us, where she actually jumped on my shoulder. We both felt this presence come towards us. The presence felt very aggressive. It made me turn, like I turned against the wall and she jumped on me. We both felt this rush come at us. I just started to turn away and she felt it too and started to run and grab me for, protection. Just a natural instinct.
Their attack is only just getting started.
Fox!
In Detroit, Michigan, a deserted police precinct has revealed some aggressive spirit presence.
It's Fox!
But just how aggressive, these paranormal investigators are about to find out.
I am just in disbelief when the rocks start being thrown at me because I've been to a lot of paranormal investigations. I've been in different states, prisons, asylums, hospitals, you name it. I've never experienced rocks being thrown at me.
Who's ever out there throwing rocks? Throw more!
And then we started asking again, who's doing that? Can you throw more rocks? Kept throwing more rocks at people. Can you throw one at Brandy? Throw one at Brandy. Can you throw one at Jeff? Throw one at Jeff.
Whoever was throwing the rocks earlier, did you throw a rock or make that noise in here?
That was the first time we'd experienced that, and it was these little tiny pebbles would just hit us, and they weren't falling, they would hit you with some force, but we couldn't explain it.
Who's throwing rocks?
So she said, who's throwing rocks? And we caught an EVP sounding like someone saying, it's them?
It's a rock that's nice.
So the voice that we captured is very whispery. It certainly wasn't a person in the room. It sounded kind of like, it's them, whispery. But it sounded completely different from the voice of anybody who was with us.
It's a rock that's nice.
The violent activity proves too much for one team member.
Joe,
That was right directly in front of us. Somebody put the light down here and get me the out of here now.
When the rocks start being thrown like that, the other people were very shaken up as well. One of them was thrown right in front of one of the psychic mediums, and she actually says, "That was right in front of here, get me the out of here."
No.
But against their better judgment, those remaining decide to continue with the investigation.
So Brandy is picking up on these male spirits. They're still with us, and they're, I think, getting even more unhappy with the fact that we're there.
I feel a coldness, but she would say, "They're right there. Do you feel them right there?" The only thing I could feel at that point was a coldness around my face, no other part of my body. But other than that, we couldn't see or feel anything that she was telling us.
In one final effort to capture some visual evidence, the team snaps some photos.
We snap a photo, and the photo shows me, and it looks like a light anomaly is coming towards me. And it also looks like there's one right in front of the camera. That's really interesting because there are two light anomalies, and if there were two spirits following Todd and me, two male spirits, maybe former police officers, it could be them showing up in the photo.
The investigators have one more tool at their disposal.
We had the Geo box going, which is that spirit box, and it scans the radio stations really quickly, and sometimes full sentences will come through.
Do you want us here?
We're asking questions like, "Do you like us being here?" And we get a voice clear saying, "Be gone."
We want all the spirits with us in this room.
And that was pretty much the end of our night.
Something about the voice just had a very authoritative tone, like it was telling us to be gone, and we listened.
Get the hell out of here before I kill you!
We don't provoke, we don't keep pushing. Usually when someone tells us to leave or be gone, we'll respect their wishes.
Guys, we need to get out of here now. Come on.
In light of the undeniable hostility, Todd finally decides it's time to end the investigation. The spirits have control of the building for now.
The 6th Precinct is probably one of the most haunted places I've ever investigated.
But for this paranormal team, the overriding feeling is that occupants of the precinct should coexist, the living and the dead.
For us to give it their voices back and let them be heard is a feeling you can't even describe. It's overwhelming, and I think that we showed them respect, and for them to be able to talk and let them know that they're still there, that they're not going to leave, and that they appreciate what's happening at that precinct right now.
Still to come, a historic mansion turned museum gives investigators a night they'll never forget.
Fred's like, "Do you want us to leave?" Yes. Oh, crap.
But first, an abandoned hospital might still be hosting some very sick patients.
And hearing that, you empathize with it. You're also afraid of it.
Who's there? Who is that?
An abandoned hospital in Indiana, previously a refuge for the sick and wounded. It's alleged that some who died here may never have left. Rumors start swirling when the new owners begin renovation work on the property. Construction workers witness a host of bizarre events. Most terrifyingly, objects that levitate before their very eyes. An abandoned hospital in Indiana is rumored to hold on to some long-forgotten patients. And according to witnesses, those patients are getting violent. The reports reach paranormal investigator Alan Tolf. A former law enforcement officer, Alan's true passion has always been ghost hunting.
I don't discriminate. I love all the paranormal. I mean, I enjoy investigating all types of paranormal activity.
Alan's partner in the paranormal is his daughter, Anna. She shares her father's passion, but is all too familiar with the risks involved.
The paranormal can be very dangerous without experience and research and really knowing what you're doing. A lot of harm can be done.
Anna and Alan arrive at the hospital, planning to spend the night investigating and gathering evidence. They're instantly struck by the atmosphere.
You can feel a significant amount of energy around you. The goosebumps, the prickly feeling on your skin. You can tell something's around there.
Start down here.
When we initially got to the hospital, we were informed a little girl known as Elizabeth liked to hang out around the basement. Her mom was actually a patient at the hospital and passed away, and Elizabeth was taken in and then eventually passed away as well from tuberculosis.
Anything?
No.
The investigators reach an area previously used as the hospital's morgue. They decide to use a K2 meter to confirm a spirit presence.
Elizabeth? Can you tell me if you're here?
I was really wanting to try to connect with Elizabeth and kept asking if she was present.
But despite Anna's eagerness to make contact with Elizabeth, she is cautious.
Bad negative forces can manipulate your mind, and I think they probably know that the children are my weakness. Like, I enjoy investigating and communicating with the younger, and I wanted just to really verify that it was her, so I'd asked a few times, do this again if you're really Elizabeth, and she continued to spike the K2 meter.
But Elizabeth is ready to take things a step further.
Elizabeth just grabbed my hair.
While we were in the morgue, Anna experienced little tugs stroking her hair.
Elizabeth, it's okay.
At that point, I was excited. I felt I was communicating with this little girl. My shirt was being tugged. My hair was being stroked, almost like it was being played with. In this situation, I truly feel it was Elizabeth. I really feel I was communicating with the little girl.
But unfortunately, the little girl ghost may not be alone.
So we start hearing footsteps upstairs, loud enough, defined enough to believe it was someone in the hospital. And we go upstairs, check things out. The hospital's still secured. There's no way of entry. There's no explanation other than something paranormal.
Convinced that there is a strong spirit presence in the hospital,
It's quiet up here.
Alan and Anna return to the morgue to continue their communication with Elizabeth.
I think we should go back and get her gear.
At this point in the investigation, we were excited with the activity that we had captured in a short amount of time.
But back downstairs, there's been a shift in the atmosphere.
At this point, I feel a stronger force,
Elizabeth?
a negative force, had taken over the environment, and Elizabeth was no longer coming through at that point.
And then, noises.
It sounded like a slow, heavy scratch, slow, hard scratch. It was very disturbing, one that kind of makes your gut cringe.
The only way for us to help you with this is to have you face whatever this is.
All new series Ghost Bait, Thursday at 10 on Travel Channel and stream live on the Travel Channel app.
At an abandoned hospital in Indiana, playful communication with a child spirit seems to have taken a turn for the worst.
It sounded like a slow, heavy scratch, slow, hard scratch. It was very disturbing, one that kind of makes your gut cringe.
Initially, when I heard the scratching, I dismissed it.
God, what is...
I couldn't fathom where this was coming from. It was a slow scratch and then tapping against the concrete.
That's solid concrete. What the hell is that?
What? We had just been down in the basement having this playful encounter with what we thought was Elizabeth, and then go to investigate this scratching in the same basement, and it immediately turned more dark. It was heavy. It was no longer playful and childlike.
Come on. Let's get it.
Unsettled by the shift in atmosphere, the investigators attempt to make contact with Elizabeth.
Dad, it's over here.
Using a spirit box.
A spirit box is a device, a radio that's been modified,
Is anybody here?
allowing spirits to grab onto sound bites and formulate words.
Elizabeth?
We heard the voice of a little girl come through the spirit box. And asked, "What's your name?" And Elizabeth clearly comes through the spirit box.
It really felt incredible when I heard her voice come through the spirit box. Really, in that moment, I knew it was the little girl Elizabeth speaking. It made me extremely excited.
But Elizabeth's voice is quickly replaced by something more sinister.
We continue asking questions. We hear the voice of an older male, a more dominant figure.
His voice was very deep, aggressive. I believe it was the doctor who took care of Elizabeth after her mother passed, who owned the hospital. I feel like he probably felt the need to protect this little girl and was trying to guard her from us. And after he came through the spirit box, the little girl never did again.
With the lines of communication seemingly severed, Alan and Anna relocate to the former kitchen quarters to review any evidence captured on their recorders.
I heard a male disembodied voice say a military-type phrase in my ear.
It startled him enough to then startle me, like a little domino effect.
The same male voice shouts in my ear, you. At this point, my nerves were a little bit shot. I thought that for whatever reason, this man had singled me out or targeted me.
The second whisper is what really shook us the most. From the first whisper to the second, it became more aggressive, more threatening, just more vulgar.
This was a little bit unnerving, and you're vulnerable. I'd been yelled at by this very angry man, so you had to muster up some courage.
But the male spirit hasn't finished with them yet.
Dad, over there! Over there! Over there! Look!
I see a shadow go across the doorway. I was very frightened. I didn't know what it was I saw, if it was coming in for us, what was going to happen. I tell Dad immediately what I saw. We're usually really good about communicating with each other.
The room is suddenly filled with a distressing noise.
It's very disturbing because you can hear pain and agony in this moan. And hearing that, you empathize with it. You're also afraid of it. It was very compelling. It's also very sad.
Who's there? Who is that?
Still, the investigators press on, determined to capture more evidence.
Sometimes when you're scared, you almost freeze up. And you really have to force yourself to keep your mind on the game and keep investigating. And even being that scared, we wanted to go over there and see if we couldn't get something.
The activity seems to have stopped, so the Tolfs check their recorders.
We hadn't even asked a question. We just entered the room, and upon playback, we hear a male state, "Shh, they're coming." It was so startling because that, to me, suggests that this is intelligent, that they know we're there, they can see us.
They know we're there. For whatever reason, didn't want to make their presence known to us. It's a feeling you can't describe. It's so hard. There aren't enough words in our language to describe the feelings you get when you see and hear these types of things.
But their recording device has more surprises in store.
We were getting responses that were extremely negative.
Things like, leave now, get out. You.
At an abandoned hospital in Indiana, an angry spirit presence is sending a message to paranormal investigators Alan and Anna Tolf that they have long outstayed their welcome.
Things like, leave now, you. Whatever was in the room did not want us up there.
Now, deeply concerned by the spirit's aggression, Alan and Anna decide to call it a night.
Leave now!
You know, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want my dad to be hurt. We decided it'd be wise to pack our things up, get out of there.
But once the dust has settled and there's been a chance to review the evidence, the Tolfs are pleased with their findings.
We established that Elizabeth did reside there, and we were able to capture her voice and her name, which was compelling to us. We established that there were intelligent spirits within the building.
I absolutely know we collected more than enough evidence to prove that there's something there. From this childlike, playful energy to an almost demonic energy. And you can feel the difference, you can feel the transition as it occurs.
And for both Alan and Anna, this case has proved to be a valuable lesson.
As an investigator, I learned a place doesn't just have good, it doesn't just have bad. It can have anything and everything.
This investigation, to me, will stand out because the suffering of the individuals that resided there at one point and that remained for whatever reason, and that will stick with me forever.
Ghost hunters stand firm where others would flee. But when spirit interaction turns hostile, it might be wiser to run.
Fred's like, do you want us to leave? Yes. Oh, crap.
This historic mansion is located in a northwestern corner of New York State. Built as a private home in the 1800s, it later falls into disrepair until it's converted into a museum in the 1960s. The curators restore the house to its former glory, complete with period furniture and decor. Although no paranormal activity has been reported in the mansion, ghost hunter Sharon Lennon is keen to investigate a location so laden with history.
When you fill this home with antiques, you will get spirits to connect with them.
Sharon not only investigates the paranormal, she's also a psychic medium.
A psychic medium is the ability to read the energy surrounding them, not only just in people and places and things, but, spirits also.
It's a gift she's possessed since childhood.
I would have premonitions of things that would happen. I actually saw flashbacks of events that would happen in my life, and then all of a sudden came to fruition, and it just kind of grew from there.
Sharon gains access to the mansion and assembles her investigative team. George Updegraff, Fred Strock, and Dawn Lambalzer.
I believe we were actually the first ones to investigate it, so whatever we found out that evening was going to be the history of what happened in there. And just by the looks of it, I kind of got that feeling that someone was looking out at the window at me, and the rest of the team kind of felt the same way.
Also joining the team is Sharon's daughter, Sarah.
My daughter was born connected. She would see spirits and had imaginary friends from when she was like 2 or 3 years old.
Sharon thinks Sarah may prove to be an asset on this case.
Children's spirits love to connect with my daughter. And that's why I bring her, and they would like to interact with her and connect with her.
Anxious to start gathering data, the team starts to set up their equipment, but in the hive of activity, no one notices that Sarah has wandered off.
Sarah had passed through his doorway, and just as she was about to pass through the doorway, the door swung shut. Didn't hit her, didn't hurt her, but it scared her.
What happened? What happened? Are you okay?
She comes out and she tells Sharon, Mom, the door just slammed on my face.
Well, if an entity can move objects, obviously they have a lot of stored energy, and they know how to manipulate physical objects. So with that, you're on guard if you see something physically move or physically happen, because
Are you okay?
that's obviously a strong spirit. This made me concerned about what I was in store for the night, because being that she's my daughter and she's 10 and this already happened, I'm of course worried and concerned that she's gonna be okay, so I keep a close eye on her.
And Sharon's like, are you sure you're okay? Do you want to continue?
This is a ghost house, and sometimes these things happen. But we're gonna keep
Sarah's
you
like,
safe.
no, I'm a little shooken up, but I'm okay, Mom. I'm okay, I'm okay. We were all a little shook up that that's the first thing that happened before we even really started the investigation. But as long as she says she's okay, we continued.
Heeding the warning, the team begin their investigation with caution.
Dawn, myself, and Sarah went up into the attic, which has 4 rooms in it, and which starts with the nanny's room.
Dawn operates the camera, while Sharon uses her divining rods to communicate with the spirits.
Divining rods are 2 metal rods shaped like L's, and which move on their own. Your cross is a yes answer, and pulling out is no. We were talking to the spirits, and I could sense a nanny or an older woman's spirit. I asked her if she's the nanny of the house, and she said yes.
Are you the nanny of the house?
She watched over the children of the past homeowners.
Sarah, meanwhile, is also communicating with the spirits using a pendulum.
Are there any spirits in the room with us?
While talking to the nanny, I could sense a little boy in the room. Getting a shadow. See, he seemed to be standing right next to where my daughter was sitting. I asked, is there a little boy in the room? And I got a yes answer. He seemed to be attracted to, of course, another little kid. Kids are usually attracted to other kids.
The child was really fascinated by Sarah. And as we were in there, he started playing with the little pendulum that Sarah had and pulling it out and then kind of dropping it and let it swing a lot and then pulling it out and let it drop and swing. He was very playful.
But the playful communication soon takes a sinister turn. In Northwest New York, paranormal investigators have been enjoying a playful exchange with a little boy ghost. Until now.
As this was happening, we were kind of hearing like these footsteps kind of coming from the hall, like coming towards the room where we were.
First, when we were talking to the spirits, we heard some footsteps, and then all of a sudden, as if there was a shadow went in front of the camera, it went dark. Hold this. Thank you.
The shadow just passed right in front of the camera and blacked out the camera. Quick 2 seconds and it was right back on.
I believe it was a man that wanders through the house.
Sure, you have to see this.
I believe he's the one who just kind of came into the room and decided he's going to take over what we were doing.
And we kind of got the feeling that he wanted to make his presence known. Like, oh, you're coming into here? Oh, no, no, no. You will listen to me. I am the authority in this house. And that's kind of the feeling we got from that initial welcome.
We were asking the questions, and again, we connect with the spirits, and
It's very cold.
all of a sudden, it got really cold.
Yeah, I feel it too.
When the room gets cold, it usually means that the spirit is drawing in their energy, because spirits need energy to manipulate and do things.
And they don't have to wait long for the spirit to manifest.
You could see George was sitting across from me as we were asking questions, and you could see this. It looks like a bonfire outside the window behind him. Now, the room was totally black and dark. I mean, if we see any type of light outside of a window, you definitely see through the window and see that fire. And it was like, what would cause it?
But the activity isn't just outside the room.
As we were sitting there, I had my rods pulling over to the right and then flipping back around. So as we were talking to the spirits, they just kind of like decided to play with the rods. Was there someone, or is there someone standing in the corner beside to my right? Yes. And also my rods just went boom, like to one area, like as if it was drawn, like there was something standing next to me.
Is there someone beside me right now?
It was like this person just had to like stand there and watch us. And as I was asking questions, I could see this mist like right by my rods. It was just a big, black, misty darkness.
And was it him again? Was he following us again? I mean, it's cold, we see a shadow pass in front of us. What are we supposed to, think? He's following us again.
Warmer. Because, you know what I'm saying? I wanna. This shadow, I believe was the same shadow from upstairs. I believe he was following us around the house because he was just saying, this is my house, I'm watching you, It's like he was keeping order.
We're like, why is this happening? And the only thing we can think of is it that spirit that slammed the door in Sarah's face? And is it those footsteps that we heard while we were up in the attic? Is he trying to stop us from talking to these spirits again?
Concerned that the spirit might get aggressive, they decide to regroup and ask Fred to join them on the main floor. But it's too late.
We were going to the next room, and that's when Fred came down the stairs and something tripped him. He trips down the last two stairs. And with that, he lunges forward.
Fred felt as though something grabbed his ankles.
I don't know.
And he was starting to fall forward.
Yeah.
Fred thought that the same spirit that shut the door on Sarah was the same spirit that grabbed his ankles, because he could just, he's also a medium, he could sense it.
We thought, wow, this spirit really is just out to be harmful and vengeful for no reason at all. It wasn't sitting well with any of us.
Despite their fears, Fred sets up a flashlight experiment to get answers from whatever pushed him.
Fred's like, well, let's get to the bottom of this light right now.
They ask the spirit to turn the flashlight on for yes.
Do you want us to leave?
The gentleman who pushed me on the stairs, or the spirit who pushed me on the stairs, do you want us to leave? Yes. Oh, crap.
Then he says, okay, just to verify, if you want us to leave, flash the flashlight again. And it flashed again. And so with that, he knew that was the spirit saying, yes, I want you to leave.
But there's one thing left to do before they call it a night.
So what we do before we leave any investigation is we ask any spirits if anybody would like to cross over. And if they do, they need to come to Sharon, and she will open the portal, the light to heaven, so they can cross over.
If there is anyone that would like to cross over, my angels could guide you to heaven.
I call in my angels and my guides, and I use the divining rods, which help me prove that I'm crossing them over. When I do that, I go into this little meditative state. I open the light. My rods will cross, which I know that they see the light, and then they cross into the light.
But not everyone wants to be helped into the afterlife.
The angry spirit that shut the door and tripped Fred did not want to cross over, but I can only cross over spirits that do want to go into heaven.
I try to put my hand on her shoulder so she can use some of my energy so she doesn't drain all her own energy. I just try to envision just a giant white light surrounding her so no harm can come to her at that point.
And then they cross into the light. And then once that's done, then I feel this overwhelming sense of release, and then it closes, and they've crossed over.
Afterwards, she kind of says, a blessing and then kind of closes the portal. And then the room usually feels lighter, more airy, less heavy. And that's how she crosses them over.
Satisfied that their work is complete, team calls time on the investigation. But for Sharon, every case closed is a lesson learned.
I learned to always be careful bringing my kid on an investigation.
I'm so proud of you today.
You think most places the spirits are very mild-mannered, but then when something like this happens, then you're like, okay, now this wakes you up, and just say, be careful next time you walk into a place and investigate.
And both Sharon and Dawn urge future investigators to take great care.
We believe that any investigators that go there to investigate this proceed with caution. You do not know what this gentleman is capable of. If he slammed a door in a child's face, what's he going to do to an adult?